Hi, I'm Dave, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to do my third magnetic racing kit build. This time slightly more complex than the last one, the container toilet block. So the first thing to do when doing a magnetic racing kit is open the bag and smell those Tuareg campfires. Yep, the smell of laser etched MDF is beautiful. Now this kit comes with two 3D printed men's urinals. More of those later. The rest of the kit, of course, is laser cut MDF sheets. Not suitable for children made in the UK. I'm sure it's suitable for children made elsewhere, but obviously not the ones in the UK. We're obviously very badly behaved over here. So, quite a lot of sheets. We'll get to each of these in a minute. But first, we should probably discuss the tools you're going to need for this part of the exercise. You're going to need a file, just to file down the edges of all the bits you detach from the sheets. You may need a craft knife, although it says don't use a knife. And of course, you're going to need a cup of coffee for this, probably several, because it's quite a long build. So first thing to do is detach all of the sheets for the structural bit of the box. And then, if you look at the rest of them, there's some other sheets which are applied detail that goes on the structure. The structural sheets are all 2mm thick. The applied decoration is all on sheets that are 1mm thick, and some of them get layered as we go along. But if we start with the structural pieces of the box, as always, we're going to start off by filing and cutting off all the little edges and nibs from where we detached them from the sheets they came in. Won't bore you with all of that, there's lots of those. And now we have all of the pieces of the box. And some coffee. I've detached all the other pieces from the sheets as well, so I've split them up into groups of things, primarily based on what colour I'm likely to paint them. So these are the decorative pieces that are applied to the structural box. All of these pieces here are for some steps and some handrails which will lead up to it. These are all the window frames and door frames, and the doors for the toilet doors. These are the signs for the toilet sign that goes on the roof. More of that in part 2 of this video. They also give you a little waste paper bin. These pieces form the basins for the toilet block. This is the centre partition wall between the two toilets. And then these pieces are the partitions for the cubicles and the toilet doors. So really, I've kind of grouped them into 8 groups to do with how they're going to go together and how I'm going to paint them. I'm going to go completely off the instructions at this point because the instructions are great and they're linear, and if you follow it step by step you will get the job done. But you can do it quite a lot quicker. So the first thing we're going to do is apply the frame layer of decoration to the ribbed container part of the decoration. Because the pieces are so square and accurately cut, you can just use the table to square them up. And those two pieces have 2 notches at the top, as you can see there. So you can definitely get everything squared up very easily just with your hands. Don't need to do anything else. And we'll go through and do the rest of them. So we are, that's all 4 frames framed. In the meantime, while I was doing that, I painted all the structural bits and waited for them to dry. So they're all painted white on the inside, because generally speaking, toilet blocks are white on the inside. And on the outside, ready? It's green. Quite specifically, it's a Ford Mustang green called Need for Green. Now, all the Mopar guys and all the Chevy guys are probably laughing now, because painting a toilet block Ford colours. And there's all the outside decorative pieces also painted in the green. All the partitions and toilet cubicles are painted white. And these are the basins. You'll see I've stuck them on a piece of masking tape, because if you're spraying something with a spray can and they're little bits, they blow away with the spray. So if you stick them, along with the door frames and the window frames here, if you stick them on a piece of masking tape and then spray them, you don't lose them. So now we're going to start building it. Tools you'll need are a square, some glue, CA glue in this case, and of course the vital ingredient. If anybody wants to send me some coffee, I'd really appreciate it. I get through quite a lot. So again, I'm going to not follow the rules and the instructions. I'm just going to start by gluing some of the partitions onto the central divider wall between the 2 toilet blocks. You can stick that on there and then use the square just to hold it in place so that you know everything is nicely at 90 degrees. And then to improve the workflow on all of this, while that's setting a little bit, I'm just going to take 2 of the window frames off my piece of masking tape and stick them on the outer decorative piece of the end wall. And again, it's so accurate, they're really easy to line up with your fingers. And by the time I've done both ends, that first bit of partition is stuck, and it's stuck nice and solidly, so now I've got a right angle, I can just build everything else off that. So, second partition. And I did one of the long walls with the frames while I was waiting for that to dry. Third partition. Bit more coffee. And that's all 4 of the outers done at the same time while we're waiting for the partitions to dry for the centerpieces. And now all 3 of the partitions are done and glued solid. The 3 toilet doors for the cubicles can just be set into place on top of those. More coffee. And again, not in the order it says in the instructions, I'm fitting the fascia boards to the basins. And again, using the workpieces I've already got, which I know are at 90 degrees, to prop everything else up so that I know everything stays nicely glued and nicely at 90 degrees like it's supposed to be. Just using 190 as a reference for all the others. Now I'm going to apply the decorative panels to the end structural walls. Again, with those little notches in the bottom there, it's very easy to get all of this lined up just with your hands. You don't need straight edges or anything really. You can just do this. And having done that, I can now glue the basin to the wall. And while they're gluing, I've finished off the one cubicle I'm having on the gent side of the partition wall. So I was looking at these basins and they're just holes, which is great, but there should be some kind of basin in it, and I was trying to work out what to do quick and cheap. So I got some Rhino aluminium tape and cut a little piece off. I just stuck it underneath the basin fascia. And you can see it poking through there. And then using the round end of the file, I sort of squished the foil around that round shape to kind of make basin shapes. It's a bit fiddly, and it takes a little bit of doing, but there we are, look. There's 3 basins, sort of, and a bit of foil tape as a mirror on the wall as well, because you need a mirror. And now I'm going to do what is actually step 1 in the instructions, which is fit the centre partition wall into the floor plate. It's got those little lugs, so it lines up very easily. There's my concentrating face, look. And just square it up again. Now I was contemplating which order to put the rest of the walls on. And I've kind of ended up with, well, I'll put the front wall on first. As with all of these things, just check everything's lined up and fits before you start. Then apply all the glue. And then this should just slot into place really easily. And then the 2 end walls. At this point, I figured it was easiest to glue the urinals in before I did the 4th wall, just because I've got big hands, so it's easier. And there we are, that's kind of the insides of all of this done. And then I had a problem, a big problem. So I had to fix that problem. And while I was fixing that problem and waiting for the kettle to boil, I got on the computer and I printed out some checker sheet. Now look, that makes your eyes go wobbly, doesn't it? Cut those into 2 rectangles, and because the basins and the cubicles don't reach the floor, you can just cut a rectangle and just slide it in as floor. So there we have checkered, tiled, lino floor toilets. Another slurp of coffee before we go for the big one and put the last wall on. And a bit of coffee while I'm holding that, waiting for it all to dry solid and square. This one's quite important, it holds everything else straight. And finally we'll put on the front decoration and the back decoration panels. Now the roof lid, don't glue that down, but do glue the decoration panel onto the lid, because then you have a removable top. And now to the doors. Now, Magnetic Racing's kit comes with these strange four-headed people that you're supposed to pop out and stick to the fronts of the doors as signs for ladies and gents. But I went for Abby and Andy Slick, because I've already got Andy Slick as a drip man model. So I thought, well, we'll use them as toilet door signs. There we are, that's finished. The main box part anyway. Here's Andy Slick. There's Abby Slick. You can see I've added a bit of texture to the green paint by using some filler primer spray underneath the green. There's the inside with the lid off. And there it is from the other side. I painted the backs of the doors grey. And of course, here's our reviewer, Mr. Thumbs Upman, testing the facilities. And he does, of course, approve. Now, the people from Magnetic Racing tell me this guy's called Jimmy. So he now has a full name, Jimmy Thumbs Upman. So that's the end of part 1. In part 2, we'll be assembling the steps and the sign and generally weathering and having a lot of fun with what's left. So thanks as always for watching one of my videos. If you liked it, you'll find a button for that. If you subscribe to the channel, that would be great. And if you hit the bell, you will get updates every time I post something. And don't forget to check out this slot car channel.